Hello, welcome to Female Voices Life and Loss, where we explore the many ways grief, healing, and transformation shows up in our lives. I'm your host, Teresa Reiniger, and today I am being joined by someone whose heart-centered work touches one of the most sacred chapters of our life. Annie Eads is a wife, mom, senior advocate. I love that. And it is an incredible cheerleader for her families navigating the aging journey of their loved ones. With years of experience across senior living, home care, and now returning to home care marketing, Annie brings insight, compassion, and clarity to one of life's most emotional, complex transitions. Today, we're going to talk about all of those things, and most importantly, we're going to share a lot of knowledge that I believe will truly support the listening audience. Annie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Sure. We've been talking a little bit about having you come on, and now you are here, and you're right in the middle of a transition from a job. So this is a good time for us to talk. You can talk about those, both of those different aspects for sure. Before we dive into that, if you can share, who is Annie Eads? Besides the titles, who are you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Obviously, first, I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm a dog mom. Obviously, I just got a grandpuppy, apparently. My daughter got a dog this week. Now I have an 8-week-old puppy that we're trying to navigate through life with. Honestly, I am a networker. Everybody says I'm a networker and connector. And I do that not just through professional, but I feel actually this morning I got a phone call saying, hey, you're the go-to girl. I need advice. And that's what I live on. I want to be able to give back. And I love that people look at me as being the professional and the go-to for all things senior living, home care, nursing homes, all of the above, or even just questions about an aging parent.
I love that. And I know I have reached out and have done that myself with you. I have a good friend that dad needed a space, and just it was so reassuring. He was so thankful that I connected the two of you so he could just get some answers and just feel more confident and in the decisions that needed to be made for his father. I appreciate you doing that, and I'm sure everyone else that just spends time with you and gets knowledge is so grateful and thankful, because it is a very difficult time. I myself never had to really navigate that with my parents. I guess they did have some home care for short period hospice and things like that, but never the assisted living or nursing home care. Although you may not know this, let's see, my daughter is 40. 35 years ago, I worked at a nursing home, and I worked there for 5 years. I love the older people. I love talking to them. I love just picking their brains. The amount of knowledge that they have is unbelievable. And I know we're going to dive more into that. Thank you, first and foremost, for what you do. You've spent years, sounds like, walking alongside seniors and their families. Can you share a moment, and maybe a moment that they deeply impacted you, and you're reminded really of why you do what you do? An impactful moment that reassures you. You probably have a lot of those, but can you think of one or two?
I do. I mean, what drives me is the fact that I was grandpa's favorite. I shouldn't say that, but I was super, super close with my grandpa growing up. My papa Bud, we actually lived with him for a little bit when my mom and dad got divorced. I remember after school in 3rd grade, he would pick me up and take me to the restaurant with him and his friends, where they had pie and tea every afternoon. And that's what makes me what I am today, because listening to them sit around, and there's no other way to say it, they sat around and bullshitted for about an hour over their pie and their tea. But honestly, just, I can tell you, Mr. Ivan, when I was at my last job, Ivan was the first one to welcome me to the community. And I did the sales and marketing. So I would meet with all the families before they came in. And Ivan would always tell me, he's like, do I need to be the community smartass or do you need a cheerleader? Which one am I today? And just the conversations that we had. And unfortunately, Mr. Ivan did pass away. And it's completely left a hole in that community. He was there for 7 years. And honestly, he called himself the mascot, and he really was. As I packed up my office yesterday, actually, his family gave me a statue of a horse with a dog on it, and it said, waiting on the boss. And they said that he actually told them that needed to come to me. And it just, so I'm not going to cry. It's true, though. He would come in, it's just every day he had something else to say. And it's those moments that I know I'm doing what I'm meant to do because I'm making a difference in their lives. I get to be there when their families can't.
Yeah, and the families, I know, appreciate that so much, that you are there for them during those difficult times. Let's talk more about that as you propose a little bit, and maybe I'll just put you right back into it, because I know it touches your heart that these people really do their family, because we've talked before and you have shared that. How do you and other people, because this is really about loss and that grief, they are like family. How do you navigate that emotional weight that could happen more frequently than the regular family having losses when you're working in a community where it's the seniors, it's the elderly? How do you navigate that?
It's hard, especially we're not supposed to have our favorites, but we do. We get our favorites. We get attached. Me learning their stories before they even start getting home care or they start in senior living, I get their backgrounds. I find out what it is they need. I help put their care plans together. And those pieces, I'm creating that bridge for the family and for the resident or the client to essentially start the next phase of their life, knowing that I have an impact in that and knowing that we're making a difference and we're doing the greatest gift to the families, and that's giving them back their relationship as the family and not the caregiver in any aspect, from home care to assisted living to a nursing home. And it's hard. There's days that I come home and I just look at my husband and he opens his arms and he knows I just need a 5-minute hug. There's days that I have to take the top off the Jeep and go for a ride through the country with my radio just blasting because I'm in my feels, essentially. We all deal with it different, but at the same time, we all come together and we're there for the last moments. And we know that we've made a difference in that stage of their lives. And that's what gets us through it. And that's what makes us move on and help the next person. As hard as it is, I go to the funerals. I'm there to hold the family's hands. And it's taxing. It really, truly is. But it's also so rewarding knowing that we let them be the family and took that huge piece of caregiving off of them to where they could enjoy their loved ones at the end, how they should.
That's beautiful. And like I had said, it's just more frequently probably than a normal family would be, but your extended family, all of these seniors are just, their life is shorter while you know them, for sure. I'm just curious, as to, you indicated you take the top off of the Jeep and blare the music, or you go home and get a hug from your husband. Are there other things that you do? They're probably, like you just talked about, Ivan, that impact you even deeper. Do you have some other coping skills, some things that you do to really make sure that when you've experienced those losses, that you're still your best self serving the other seniors? Is there other things that you do, or even does the companies, like the other employees, the people that are taking care of these residents, what does the company put together? All of these, is there anything in place to really help support the staff? Just curious about that.
Not really. Not
Oh,
really.
that's the thing.
There are things that are in place a little bit. It's not like there's counseling services or anything like that that are available. But really, we're all our own counselors. Like, we get together, we cry. It may be where we bring lunch in for everybody or something along those lines. But ultimately, it's self-care. You have to find your own ways. I got into reading probably, 15 years ago, because I have to put myself in someone else's life to kind of walk away from my own for a moment. So diving into the romance books and the cowboy romance books and all of that, just putting myself out there and kind of disconnecting. Massages, myself to massages, that's one of the things. And then I just found a new type of self-care where I'm getting my bars read and basically disconnecting. And I will tell you, it's been so impactful. And everybody has to find their own way. Alcohol's not the answer, but sometimes going out for drinks with friends just to kind of let loose is important too.
Yeah, and everybody has their things that they do. And as a coach and specialist with grief, as I am, I just always want to make sure they're not in an avoidance, not feeling the feelings and really working through those emotions and grief that's coming. So an occasional having a drink or occasionally, taking the top off the Jeep and driving with the music blaring is okay. But what I know is if someone is consistently doing those same things over and over and over and over, there's an avoidance there, because it does make us feel good. That's why we do it, because of how we feel. And so it's okay to do that occasionally. It just is not necessarily the best and the healthiest if we're doing it repeatedly. And I guess really the best example of that is the alcohol, like you mentioned. People that drink every day to avoid feeling the feelings, that is not healthy for them. An occasional is perfectly fine. Getting those massages and all of that self-care to really help us. And massages are so good because we're relaxing and we're allowing emotion and feelings and thoughts a lot of times to come through and really processing those things. Those are always really, really good things to allow those emotions. That's the biggest thing, is allowing those emotions to come. Don't hold those back anymore when you're talking to me. Let them. I love when people cry. I love the fact that people show emotions, because with what I do, when they're showing their emotions, they're healing. And so it's like, let those emotions flow with me, because I know that you're healing. That's the most important thing for me to see. Let's go away from that emotional piece for a little bit. At least we'll see how long we stay away. But can you tell us the key differences? We talked about you've been in home care, you've been in senior living, nursing home. Tell us. We'll do a little educational piece here. Share with us your knowledge on the difference with those. If someone has a loved one that they're just not sure where they should look for their loved one.
Sure. So we'll start with home care. That's kind of normally the first step. Home care is basically a companion coming to the house. They can do anything from cooking, cleaning, running errands, to personal care, showers, taking them to doctor's appointments, things like that. Medication management, making sure they're taking their medicine. A lot of times people start with that a few days a week. Maybe mom, dad, grandma, grandpa needs, I don't want to say a sitter during the day, but sometimes that's what it is. I had a lady that she lost her husband and her best friend, and we used to go there every Friday night, and we would go to dinner and a movie, and every Tuesday we would go get manicures. That's what was in her care plan. She needed a friend. And the caregiver that she had was actually only 10 years younger than her. So we had a 78-year-old caregiver that was essentially a paid best friend, but they really were truly best friends. But anything from that to end-of-life hospice can be home care as well. It goes all the way to 24-hour care. Some people just are not willing to leave their homes. Maybe it's the home they built with their wife. Maybe it's the home they grew up in. And that's really hard because a home is home. But at the same time, go to senior living. Is home really the building around you, or is it the feel and the care? You can look at it in ways. With assisted living or memory care, you have a private apartment typically. You have a care plan. There's caregivers there around the clock, but you still have your privacy. You still have those things. But I tell everybody there's a range of 5 different people that live in senior living. On one hand, fully independent, living there for the maintenance-free lifestyle, no cooking, no cleaning, none of that, to end-of-life hospice there. Exactly. To end-of-life hospice, even in senior living. You can partner with hospice, you can partner with home health, things like that, just like at home. But then whenever you step into a nursing home, a lot of people, it's because an emergency happened. Maybe they had a fall and broke a hip, maybe something like that. Nursing homes are typically more the end of life type thing is what people think. The stigma is, oh my gosh, I can't go there. I'm going there to die. That's really, truly what you hear all the time. But a nursing home can be such a good thing too, because what if they have a wound from sitting in their chair? What if they're having accidents? What if they're having falls? Things like that. In a nursing home, they can do all of the medical things. They can have IVs. They can do wound care. They can do all of the things. There's so many good things about each phase of home care to senior living to a nursing home. But I mean, most people, like I said, a nursing home just has such a bad rep, basically, because you think of what it was in the 60s and 70s, and that's not necessarily what it is today.
There's so many people now that are sent to nursing homes just for rehab and stuff to get them back to be able to go home. And so it's definitely different than what it used to be. Like you said, in the 60s or 70s, there's a total shift. And I think a lot younger generation sees that, where the older generations that are the ones that are possibly going into the nursing home, they're seeing it still as, this is where I'm going to die, which is sad. And it's the same. And I probably have shared this before. When my dad had Alzheimer's, and he, from diagnosis to his passing, was 13 years, and we were able to keep him at home because there's 13 of us. So we were able to keep him at home and take care of him. But when he got to be where we knew, my sister's a doctor, so we knew that the time was getting closer that he was going to die. We lost him many, many years prior to his actual physical death. But it was just really working with my mom to convince her, even with hospice, let's have hospice come in. There's a stigma with that as well. The same kind, I think, as the nursing home. If you bring in hospice, what she said was, they're just going to come in and they're going to kill him. I was really educating her that no, they're going to come in and help. They're going to make sure that he's more comfortable. All of those things. It is that older generation that sees things so differently with nursing homes and hospice care and all of those things. It was just educating her that it's okay.
Hospice is a great thing. It's a support. People don't think of it. It's like you said, they think they're just going to come in and essentially kill them. They're going to die within a week or whatnot. And that's truly not the case. Hospice is such a support system. You get your nurses, you get your shower aides, you get a pastor, you get the social services and all of that. I love partnering with hospice, even with home care and assisted living, because they are that extra level of support. But honestly, the support that they give the families, not just their patient, is so much more. Most of the hospice companies can follow the family for the next year. They offer so many different things, education, and it's a wonderful thing that people are just scared of. You hear the word and it automatically strikes fear, but really it should bring comfort.
My dad did end up on hospice, but it was crazy. We went in, she was educated, said yes, have hospice come in, and he passed away that night. So they never really even came in and cared for him. That's how close we were and knowing. But with my mom passed, we had hospice as well, with her struggling with cancer and having cancer, and that eventually taking her life. But just all of the materials and the education, like you were saying, was so helpful for us to really understand every kind of phase that she was going through. So we knew what was coming next. This is what to look for, and all of those things. And my husband's parents both were on hospice as well before they passed. As a family, we're good now, I think, with calling in hospice if needed, because they are so helpful, so helpful.
Absolutely.
Let's get back into home care, senior living, nursing homes, that kind of stuff. I know with my mom, we had home care come in, and that was super nice. And even with my dad, that was probably one of the things that we had. And it was just because we saw our mother declining, because she was with him 24/7. And so we needed to really almost insist that she get out of the house. And so home care came in to support and help her. Can you speak a little bit to that as far as how helpful that is for the families to have them come in and assist, just to get the families out back into the world sometimes?
Absolutely. Caregiver burnout is so real. It can be for the spouse, it can be for the kids. A lot of times the kids are raising their own family, they're working full time, and then they're still having to run over after work and make sure there's dinner. Maybe mom that's taking care of dad isn't able to make dinner anymore, things like that. It's so real, not just for the spouse, but for the family as well. An interesting fact is they say 40% of caregivers pass away before the person they're caring for because they don't know that they need. Their body is just worn out. And people don't realize that. There's so many studies that say roughly 40% pass away before the person they're caring for. And it's because they can't turn on. I know even with home care, having somebody come in a couple days a week, I had a lady that we had to force her to go to the grocery store while we were there because she still felt like she needed to host us. And it was finally when she accepted, I can go. The first time she went to the movies while we were there, she called me afterwards crying because she hadn't been to the movies in over 15 years. And she actually took that 2.5 hours for herself, and she felt guilty. But at the same time, she said it was so freeing for her to even just go by herself. She didn't have to entertain anybody. She said she didn't even know what movie she watched. She had no idea. The fact that she was away and did something like that she hadn't done in years, and she felt guilty. And as a caregiver and as someone that is caring for someone, I can understand that. But at the same time, she felt relief. Another time I had a daughter. The daughter she had a family. She had 4 kids, a husband, and her kids ranged from, I want to say it was 6 to 18. She had someone in kindergarten and someone graduating high school and 2 in between. Plus her husband owned a business and she worked full time. She left her family, moved in with mom and dad to try and care for them because mom had dementia and dad was passing away. And she just couldn't. You can't do that. That's too much. And to bring in home care, they ended up going 24 hours because the daughter missed 3 birthdays. She was missing everything at her own home, trying to take care of her parents because she felt that's what she was supposed to do because that's what they did in the old days. And I will never forget, she went to church on a Wednesday and she ended up falling asleep in the pew because she finally sat down and relaxed. And her body just made her fall asleep. She's like, I need to sleep like that. She went to church and laid down on the pew at the church and slept. That was her safe. It was, but it's so crazy because she was burning candles at both ends, still trying to support her husband with their business, still working full time, trying to take care of mom and dad, plus having 4 kids. And let's face it, 4 kids is a lot, but then to have a kindergartner to a senior, I don't know how she did it. I asked her if she was double superwoman or something because I don't know how she did it. I truly, truly don't. But it's caregiver burnout, I'm telling you, is so, so real. There's support groups. There's local support groups here St. John's Community Care, they offer a caregiver support group. There's online support groups, there's in-person. Even if you have a loved one that is at home with Alzheimer's or dementia, Parkinson's, anything like that, having that support group, it's 30 minutes. You know, and even the online ones, just so you can hear that you're not alone, is life-changing. You just have to open yourself up to it.
I love that. And that resonated a lot with me, especially with my mom caring for my dad. And when we got home care in, and I was there when she told them that she didn't need them to come more days. And I was just adamant. Oh no, you do. And finally convinced, because she's like, well, what am I going to do? If I'm not here, what am I going to do? And just reassuring her, reminding her of all the things that she loved to do. She loved to read. She loved to quilt. She loved to play cards. So it was like, go to the library, go quilt at the church. They could use help. And so it was so helpful for her to take that time, to almost be forced, because she didn't want to do it. She was not willing to do it, but forced to leave the house because of the guilt, like you talked about. But it was so beneficial for when he did pass. She was already re-engaged back into doing things that she loved to do. It helped with her grief to some extent, because she was back out already in the community, working towards things that she loved. It's so helpful. And I would always, and I'm sure you will too, always encourage people to have home care come in. Even if you don't think you need them, you need them.
You do.
40%, that is, wow. I believe it. I just had no idea. It just kind of hit me like, wow, that's a pretty high percent.
It is. And
yeah.
People are still in denial about it. They truly are. One of the questions I always ask is, okay, because it's normally mom taking care of dad for whatever reason, that's what it is.
Yeah.
What happens if mom has an emergency and falls? What then?
Mm-hmm.
What happens then? What is the plan? And that's normally the eye-opening question. And people are like, oh, I don't know. Especially the ones that maybe it's only one child. Maybe it's 14 kids, but they live all over the country. What is the plan? What is the emergency plan? Because you need to have emergency plan A, B, and C to truly be ready.
So one of the things I was going to ask, and you've already kind of alluding to that, is what is the most common, really the emotional challenges that families face when making these kind of care decisions for their loved ones? And how can you as a professional really support them and make really education is part of that, just some clarity for them?
Sure. Honestly, it's just being open with them, giving them examples. I have a few books that I love to have people read. One of them is How to Say It to Seniors, because if you're trying to say it to mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, there's different ways to approach it. And sometimes you have to go with, I have to do this for me, and I need you to understand. And that is probably harder than anything else in this world, to tell your loved one that it's too much, because you feel like you're letting them down. That book, How to Say It to Seniors. Another one that I absolutely love to refer to is Moving Miss Peggy. It is about a husband that was taking care of his wife with dementia and finally moved her into assisted living. And it is a tell-all, essentially. It's a super easy read, and it's his story of taking care of her at home, to the process of finally accepting he needed to move her to a memory care, what that looked like, and then him visiting her and stuff. Those two books are so powerful, but there's so many other books. There's, especially with Alzheimer's and dementia, there's so many educational pieces out there that a lot of people just don't understand. Sometimes they don't know what mid, moderate, late, all of those things. What does that look like? But really the education of, well, what about the wandering? What happens if there's a fire and they're at home? Are you the kid that left and locked the doors and mom can't get out? You're liable if something happens. Sometimes the scare factor, and I know that sounds terrible, but the scare factor is truly one of those emergencies. You know, what is it that is in place? Do you have cameras at home? Do you have cameras at the senior living? Do you have, neighbors? Are they constantly relying on the neighbors? What if the neighbor moves away? Then what happens? Who's taking care of the lawn? Who's doing these things? Because it shouldn't always be the kids. You can hire lawn guys. That's great. But how much is that really truly costing in the long run?
That's me. I'm like, yep, I did that. The guilt. No, the guilt. Because I just spoke about getting extra days for the home care to come in and take care of my dad that had the Alzheimer's, and my mom was leaving him, and she'd run to the post office. It was just short little trips, but she'd run to the post office and she'd come back, or she'd run to the bank or whatever. That's exactly what I said. Mom, what if the house catches on fire? She's like, with a straight face, she just said, Teresa, the house isn't going to catch on fire. You don't know that. But yeah, and then really even to get hospice in, that was kind of a little bit of a scare factor too. But it's not, I shouldn't say scare factor, it's just telling the facts.
Right.
Because I worked at a nursing home, I knew that if he passed away at home, that the coroner would be there, the police would be there. She thought all she had to do was call the funeral home and they would come and get him. And I said, that's not how it works. If he dies at home, you don't call the funeral home. If you do, they're going to tell you to call 911 and the police and the firefighters or whoever else is coming, and the coroner's coming to investigate. We know that you didn't do any harm if he passes at home, but they don't know that. They're going to investigate. And so that was really part of just educating her that if we have hospice come in, and then it is exactly what you're thinking that you want, is we'll call the hospice nurse, then the funeral home comes, and that's it. We don't have all that other stuff. That was really it. And it wasn't, I wouldn't say necessarily a scare tactic. It was just the fear factor or anything. It was just telling her the facts. This is how it is. And that's just it. People are not educated on that kind of thing. I am all pro home care, assisted living, nursing home, hospice, all that care. We need to utilize those services to support and help us so that our health, if we're caring for someone, doesn't decline. I love that a lot of what you do sounds like a lot of education, and I think we need that. Families need that. It's such a difficult time for them. Let's have you share a little bit. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're a dog mom, a new grandma, puppy, dog, all of those things. How do you balance all that between your personal life and your professional life? Because the work is so deeply emotional at times for you, how do you balance all of that? And we talked about this a little bit before I hit play, that you feel with this new position you're going to have.
Work-life balance.
That you're going to have it. So speak to that. What does that look like? What do you envision that to be? Because it's obvious that you haven't been having that, but you're envisioning having that in the future. Let's envision that a little bit. What's it look like?
Well, the last 10 years I've been on call 24/7. Anytime a family called, I answered. You had to drop in, go do tours. You had to do things like that. You have inquiries that come in at 3 a.m. I didn't answer those, by the way. I was sleeping, but I would get to them. You have an expectation on how long it is before you answer an inquiry that comes in online. Some companies want it in less than 5 minutes. Well, sometimes you got to take a shower.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. It's work-life balance. Wow. It's going to be so interesting. I honestly don't even know what this is going to look like. My husband travels for work quite a bit here lately. So I'm going to be completely honest. I am a spoiled wife. I come home and he typically has dinner done by the time I get home. He likes to clean. He does the laundry. I've started doing laundry lately. I don't really like that, but I guess I have to grow up. No, but I've had such a supportive husband. My daughter is so supportive as well. I'm really looking forward to being able to come home and just unwind, maybe actually watch TV. I don't know. Are there good TV shows on? I'm excited for TV to actually be able to watch a whole show and not, if my phone dings, oh my gosh, I have to pause that or walk away, or go into the movies. Probably go to the movies and not have to be on my phone the whole time. That'd be pretty cool. Camping. We camp April through October on the weekends. I have a permanent campsite. It's great. The porch is a happy place. I have a pool at home that I'm really excited that I'm going to get to swim in more than 8 times. Last year, it was only 8 times I was in.
Wow.
There's a lot of things. Vacations. I'm really excited for vacation. We're actually going to Jeep Branson. They had it last year, was the first one. We're going to go again this year. It happens to be the same week of my birthday. It's in June. So we're going to go to that. I'm just taking more time for me and for my husband and for my family, and honestly rebuilding some of those relationships with friends that I've put to the back burner because work was always first. And I'm going to do it I'm officially going to be in my 40s in June, because I'm 40 now. I'm not in my 40s. I'll be 41. That's in my 40s. So it's time to put me first, and it's time to put my family first, and it's time to find new hobbies maybe. I don't know. I really don't know what free time looks like. We're going to figure it out. Teresa, I might be calling you to say, hey, let's go to dinner.
I'll be like, yes, let's do it. Well, it's interesting as you were speaking to that. It is what you say to your families to have home care come in so that they take care of themselves. And to be blunt with you, it's obvious you haven't been taking care of yourself, even though, and I do this as a coach, I'll say something to somebody and it slaps me in the face. You're slacking on that yourself, girl. But it's all part of it. It's all part of it. And what I heard you say is you're looking forward to doing what you're having families do for themselves. Now you're going to do for yourself, which is beautiful.
That's right.
I love that. Good for you. You'll have to figure it out. You'll figure it out. You've got lots of things already there. That's okay. And I could speak to that because we spoke about that in April on the podcast, just that self-care, that saying no allows someone else to say yes. And if we always say yes, we're not giving other people opportunity to say yes. I'm much better at saying no sometimes to allow someone else the opportunity, because I am a person that will say yes to help anybody at any time, and I've just learned that. That is not the best for me.
2 years ago, my word of the year was no, and I embraced it. And I probably said no to way more things than I should have, but it truly opened my eyes to how much I was doing and how much I was always on the go. And I put myself first that year, and I lost relationships over it, to be completely honest, because I was the go-to. You know what I mean? It was, they knew that they could count on me, and I started saying no, and I didn't hear from a lot of those people anymore. And it was eye-opening. It's going to be freeing. I guess freeing is a good word. I don't know. My word this year, my word of the year was rhythm, because I'm just going to go with the flow. And I think that change, I was so afraid to have change as my word of the year, but I think I knew it was coming. And I'm ready to grow as a person. I'm ready to find out who I really am anymore. I need to find my inner Annie.
And I think that a lot of times at the age that you are, and I know your daughter at the age that she is, when our kids are now adults, it does shift. Okay, I'm taking care of them, and my job a lot of times is around making sure I can be available for my children. That midlife change for women is real. It's time now, because my focus has been on my family and my kids, and they don't necessarily need me as much as they did before. And so now it is really time at that time to really dive in to who am I and what do I like to do, and just start putting those things into your daily routine. I love that.
My
I love
husband's
that.
scared to death I'm going to come home with a bunch of animals because I keep telling him I want a mini goat and I want to be back on a farm. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're going to have free time. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. My goal is not to bring home any more animals.
Well, you've talked about moving. Make sure there's acreage wherever,
Absolutely.
in case there's the animals.
I don't
So
know.
this has been wonderful. As we kind of wind down, any piece of advice, you've given multiple things to kind of wrap this up, that you would share with any family that's kind of preparing for those either end of life or just transitioning out of home or even in home? What kind of advice would you give families that are going through some transitions right
Don't feel guilty. It's okay to
now?
ask for help. That's the biggest one. If you're looking for home care, hire through an agency. Don't hire a private person because you're setting yourself up for liabilities. Anybody that's hired as home care, they're licensed, bonded, insured, as well as they've had background checks, because you're letting a stranger into your home, hiring somebody off of Facebook. I see it all the time and I'm like, oh my gosh, don't do that. Because
Wow.
if they get hurt,
Yeah.
or they hurt your mom, or they hurt somebody, you don't want them to lose everything. If you're looking for senior nursing homes, visit more than 3. Do a pop-in visit. Don't just schedule, because when you schedule, they're rolling out the red carpet for you. A pop-in visit, you're seeing it real. I tell everybody, even if they knew that they wanted to move in with me, you should probably visit other places too, just so you can make sure that you're making the right decision. And they always come, I can't say always, 99% of the time they would come back, because they're like, you know what? That is so true. And you want to be educated, but you also want to do, like I said, pop-ins. Make sure that you're going to the right places if you're going to be doing those things, because you got to protect yourself and protect others. But what I'm going to say, and I preach this on a daily basis, long-term care insurance. You can get it through your employer. You can get it through so many places. I have 2 policies through State Farm and a policy through my employers. Long-term care insurance can make or break somebody. And the reason being is it can pay for home care, and it can pay for senior living, and it can pay for a nursing home. You've worked so hard your whole life to save your money. Most people don't want to sell their house. Seniors they want to give it to their kids. They don't want to spend anything. Many times I see that. But look into long-term care insurance. The older you are, the more expensive it is. My policy is $38 for a $200 a day and $100 a day. $300 a day is going to cover me for 5 years in senior living, in home care, or in a nursing home. On average, they say a nursing home in the United States costs $444 a day. Are you prepared for that? Long-term care insurance can help you. If you're a veteran, surviving spouse of a veteran, aid in attendance. If they served during wartime, you might be able to qualify for aid in attendance. It's anywhere from, I think, $1,800 for a surviving spouse, all the way up to almost $3,000 for a veteran. Or they pay for couples. So there's some qualifications, but find out what can help you pay for these services, because it shouldn't just be out of your own pocket.
Whoa, that was a lot of great information, Annie. Thank you so much. I mean, you're just a wealth of knowledge. We started with that at the beginning, just you're there to connect and help and support so many people, and just so compassionate about what you do and supporting the senior community here in the St. Louis area. But I'm sure, I'll ask this question, I would assume if you're not here in the area, or if you are here in the area, that I would probably be fine with connecting with you and supporting you with answering questions and educating you. So for the listeners, if you have a parent or someone that you love that is part of that aging community, navigating those decisions about senior care, assisted living, walking through all that stuff is difficult. But what Annie said is, you're not alone. Don't feel guilty. There is help and there is hope for you. And there's people like Annie who will walk with you on that path. So if this spoke to you, if this touched you, share this episode with someone who might need to hear it, because Annie has given us a wealth of knowledge here. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode, Annie.
Thank you for having me. I hope I get to make a difference in someone's life by listening.
You're always making a difference.
Thank you.